Blazers don't stand a chance. This is a team that came out and fired their best bullets at the Golden State Warriors in Game 2. They held the lead for most of the game. Daimeon Lillard, for 3 quarters, was untouchable. He finished with around 25, I believe it was. But in the fourth quarter, without Steph Curry, without the reigning MVP, without the person who a lot of people feel like is going to be the 2-time reigning MVP, the Golden State Warriors were able to come back, control the game, and win the game. That doesn't bode well for the Portland Trail Blazers. You came out and gave it your all. Not only did Lillard have over 20, but McCullough had over 20 as well. And that's their strength, that their backcourt. And they still weren't able to get the job done without Steph Curry on the floor. I don't see them making too much more noise. Maybe being at home will give them some sort of motivation, some sort of advantage over Golden State, but I don't see it happening. I see Golden State winning this one in 4.
Yeah, supposedly, allegedly, we don't know yet. Steph Curry is supposed to be returning for Game 3, which is going to be this weekend.
Well, Steve Kerr just said that he was not going to be returning for Game 3, but he was expected, if he can get enough reps, to come back for Game 4.
See, with that 2-0 lead, i.e. the first round series when Steph hurt, when Steph was hurt again, when the Warriors were playing the Rockets, they don't have to rush him back. Now, Portland wins Game 3, expect to see him back Game 4, definitely. If the Warriors win Game 3 against Portland, if Steph does play in Game 4, it'll be very, very limited because they could very well sweep that series and get him a maximum amount of rest. Now, he's going to be rusty when he returns for the Western Conference Finals, and we don't know how he's going to play. Maybe Portland will put up some resistance and force Steve Kerr's hand and make him bring Steph Curry back sooner than he wants, but we don't know right now. Portland, man, they're just limited, and they're not ready. They haven't been in this spot before. The Warriors are tested. They're tried. They're true. And, they're coming off of a championship, off of a historic regular season. So Portland is just not ready. They may be a year or 2 away. I mean, they may be a couple years away. They're ahead of schedule. They lost 4 members of their starting 5 from last season and were able to make the playoffs and have a pretty decent seed. So,
and second round,
and won a series. So they're ahead of schedule. They're just not on the same level as the Warriors right now. So moving on to that other matchup in the Western Conference, the other Western semifinals, I think this is going to be a hell of a series. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs came out and handed it to the Thunder Game 1. So everyone was saying, the Spurs are just going to run roughshod over the Thunder. How are they going to do that? They have 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA on Oklahoma City's team. I didn't think the Spurs were just going to run over OKC. And I think I was speaking to one of my friends. I was telling him that, man, it's a one game thing. It's a game by game basis in the playoffs. You could win by 2 points one game and lose by 15-20 the next. You can win by 20 points one game and lose by 20 points the next. It's all about adjustments. And I think OKC made that adjustment. Game 2 came out cooking, built a lead that they pretty much had the whole game against San Antonio and held on in a wild finish for that Game 2 win. Series tied up 1-1, Pierre.
But from what I've seen so far, Daimeon, and this is just my humble opinion, Oklahoma City doesn't have anything for the San Antonio Spurs. And the reason I say that is when the Spurs were hitting on all cylinders and making all of their shots and making the right passes, everybody was playing well, they blew out the Thunder. No contest. Now, Game 2, the Thunder played a lot better, but they didn't play that much better. Game 1, Westbrook and Durant combined for 20 points. Game 2, Durant had 28. Westbrook had 29, but they only won by 2 points, was it? Or was it 1 point?
1 point. 98-97, I believe.
Won by 1 point. And that's with the San Antonio Spurs missing layups, chip shots, gimmies. I mean, they had a lot of miscues in Game 2 and came out only losing by 1 point. I just don't see Oklahoma City having enough. It kind of reminds me of round 1 when Oklahoma City was playing Dallas. Yeah, Dallas won Game 2, but you kind of sense that they didn't have enough to win the series. I see the same thing here with the Spurs and Oklahoma City, but with Oklahoma City being on the wrong side of it.
Love you, bruh, but I completely disagree. How can you compare Dallas Mavericks with nowhere in the realm of player right now on their roster is Westbrook and Durant? You can't compare those two teams. I think this series is going to be a good series. It's going to go 6-7 games. Durant and Westbrook can win the series by themselves.
Wrong.
If San Antonio, let me finish. If San Antonio doesn't play well. Now, if San Antonio plays well as a team, Durant and Westbrook are going to need some help from Cantor.
What's the likelihood of San Antonio not playing well enough games for 3 more games and San Antonio winning the series?
Listen, Oklahoma City didn't play their best basketball in game 2. San Antonio just didn't shoot well. Oklahoma City didn't play they didn't play lights out. You know, if they would have played lights out, they would have blown that game open. But again, Oklahoma City lacks focus. When they get a lead, they lack focus. They tend to give up that lead. It happened during the regular season. It happened in the first round series versus the Mavericks. And it's happened in game 2 versus San Antonio. I think what can make this series a long series is this. But players other than Westbrook and Durant, they have to play well. Dion Waiters and Enes Kanter.
So back up a little bit to what you just said. I just want to ask you a question about what you just said. So you just said that Oklahoma City lacks the focus in games to win games, basically. What makes you think, with that being said, they will have enough focus to beat the Spurs for 3 more games?
Because, first of all, it's a game-by-game basis. So they won game 2. There is 1-1. So we move on to game 3. So it's a toss up between these teams. San Antonio is not like vastly superior to Oklahoma City, man. Oklahoma City won.
What?
They're not vastly superior, man. They're not.
Come on, man.
It's 1-1.
Have you seen what LaMarcus Aldridge has been doing to Serge Ibaka?
That's great.
Man, that's child abuse,
yeah,
man.
That's great.
That man is down low abusing Serge Ibaka for
that's awesome.
48 minutes.
Good for you, LaMarcus Aldridge, but it's 1-1 going back to Oklahoma City. So it's a toss up. It's 2 games in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City could very well win those 2 games, and San Antonio can be going home on the brink of elimination. We don't know. We're just speculating. But if the ancillary pieces, i.e. the others, Enes Kanter, Dion Waiters, all those other players play well, Oklahoma City can win this series. Now, San Antonio is a well-coached team. We all know Pop is a Hall of Fame coach, and they have future Hall of Fame players. But it's a game-by-game basis, and I really think this series is going to go 6-7 games. I don't think Oklahoma City is going to blow out. They're definitely not going to blow out Oklahoma City by 30 points any other game in the series. I highly doubt that happening.
Didn't say they would, but they're clearly the better team. They're the more balanced team. They have better coaching. They have more experience. They have an advantage in each and every category except for individual players, with Russell Westbrook being better than just about everybody that plays for the Spurs. You can argue that Kawhi Leonard is a better basketball player. And with Kevin Durant, nobody can match up with Kevin Durant. But San Antonio does it with 5 players at all times. Even when you look at the bench, when they come off the bench with Patty Mills doing his thing, you don't expect much when you look at Patty Mills, but he comes in and gets buckets when you need him. He comes in and plays good defense when you need him. Don't forget about Grandpa Ginobili, who hadn't had hair in the middle of his head since I was in middle school. He comes in and does whatever you need him to do. And the starters, Old Man Duncan, Aldridge, Kawhi Leonard, Tony Parkell.
I understand. They have a good team. They're a great team. The Spurs, if not for the Warriors, the Spurs had a great season as well. Went 41-1, at home.
Yes, sir.
But you know what they are at home during this series? They're 1-1 because OKC just beat them.
1-1.
They just beat them. So it's like, and OKC has a certain confidence against the Spurs because they have beat this same Spurs team minus LaMarcus Aldridge in a series before. They beat the Spurs before. So they're not, it's not in their head where San Antonio was unbeatable.
I think you're forgetting about Tony Parker.
Teso. What's the watch commercial? Teso. I don't know anyone who has a Teso watch. But Tony Parker, he's like, to be great. To Teso. The official watch of the NBA. Teso. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, man. I think this series is going to go 6-7 games. You got, Westbrook, Durant on one side, versus the ultimate team on the other with the league defensive player of the year, Kawhi Leonard, the unquestionable leader now of this San Antonio Spurs team. So I think this is going to be a pretty good series, man.
And what should be the coach of the year, Greg Popovich. He should be the coach of the year. Don't forget he's on the bench.
Pop is a different, he's a different thing, different entity in itself. They definitely have the advantage in head coaching with Billy Donovan, this being his first season in the NBA. So there's no comparison in that, but if the games play out the way they played out in game 2, it's anyone's series. If Durant and Westbrook play well all series, which they're probably going to do. They just need help from some of those other players, and it's going to be a very, very interesting series in that Western Conference semifinal matchup between the Thunder and the Spurs.
Just a question for you, though. Do you see San Antonio playing that poorly for another 3 games?
I don't think they played that poorly in game 2. They missed a lot of shots.
Gimmies, layups. They missed a lot of clean looks.
That happens. I don't think they're going to play that poorly again, but this series is supposed to be close. It's not supposed to be blowouts like game 1. It's supposed to be close, tight games, and execution wins it in the end. And, Oklahoma City put themselves in a position to win at the end, almost gave that game away with, at the end, but they were able to hold on for that 1-point victory. And I'm not even going to get into the end of the game because it's over. I'm not going to be one of those who tries to analyze what the refs did at the end. It's over. Oklahoma City won that game. It's 1-1. Moving on to game 3. So, Pierre, this hot topic, we just said a mouthful during this first segment, man.
But you didn't even allow me time to talk about Alexander Ovechkin, man. What's up with the Caps? Why can't they get over that Pittsburgh hump?
I don't know what it is.
I was just talking to Kristen Nelson today, who is a Pittsburgh super fan, with the exception of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Her being from Pittsburgh, but, in her words, we don't have an NBA team. She's a Pittsburgh super fan. She says there's a lot of professional teams that can't get over the Pittsburgh hump. The proof is in the pudding, too.
I don't know what it is, man.
I don't know what it is either.
Why do the Washington Capitals get to the playoffs? They have great regular seasons. And why do they get to the playoffs? And then the only person who actually plays decently is Alex Ovechkin. And everyone else, their goalies fall apart. Their shifts, they don't score on the power plays. And I don't understand. I know it's a lot of pressure when you get to the playoffs in any sport, but the Capitals just can't seem to put it together when it matters most.
And it's very similar to what we see going on with the Toronto Raptors. Great players, great team, have been doing great in the regular season, but get to the playoffs when it matters, and they get that Peyton Manning syndrome. Peyton Manning had the same thing. And so some great players, some great teams just get to that moment and they can't get over that hump. It's unfortunate, though, because, I really want to see Alexander Ovechkin hoist up that cup. I really want to see him take that next level, just the same as, as a fan, I'd like to see LeBron bring a championship back to a city that really needs a championship at this point. A city with great fans, a city that is behind him 100%, and he grew up 40 minutes down the street. As a fan, you just want to see certain things, and it's just unfortunate that, some certain players, certain teams get to certain points, and they can't get over that hump.
Yeah, NHL playoffs are always crazy. You got Sid the Kid versus Alex Ovechkin, man. St. Louis Blues and Dallas Stars, man, they're going at it right now.
Yeah, that's a great series right now, man. A lot of big hits. people getting suspended in the NHL playoffs. If you get a chance, please tune in to the NHL playoffs. It's a lot of action. It's a lot of drama. It has everything you need, man. Tune in to the NHL playoffs. They don't get a lot of run in this country, but they should.
Yeah, tune into those NHL playoffs, man. I believe if you check your local listings, those games are on the Oxygen Network. They are also on the Chiller channel. No one knows what